say, hey, how have you been? And I would have to lie and say, I've been great, I'm fine. When actually I was not feeling okay.
Having said this and congratulating you for all your achievements and expressing my respect, for people maybe who may not be familiar with what you're doing, a very strong advocate of mental health, but what triggered that? Why?
Thank you for that lovely introduction, and good afternoon, everybody. Mental illness crept up on me when I least expected it. I think most often, or at least in my case, it comes with absolutely no warning signs. And I was going through a phase that, you know, the perception and the general understanding was that I was at a professional high. I'd had successful, you know, consecutive hits professionally at the movies. I was in an amazing relationship. My parents and my sister have always been, you know, extremely supportive of everything that I've done in my life. And so everything that we think should be okay in our life was going more than okay. It was absolutely perfect. And I remember waking up just one morning, leading an absolutely normal, or what I thought was normal. It started with, I fell, I fainted. There was a complete blackout, I fainted, I hit my head. And I used to live alone at this time, and luckily the house help had arrived. And she saw me lying on the floor and, you know, sort of revived me. And then, you know, I gained consciousness. I sort of slept through the day, got an appointment with a general practitioner, went and saw him. He said, oh, it's nothing. It's probably just exhaustion, or your BP just fluctuated. And that was it. That was sort of the physical symptom. But what I was also experiencing was this sort of hollow, you know, sort of empty, pittish feeling in my stomach. I would break into a sweat every now and then. I would just suddenly get into these sort of panic phases where I just felt like, you know, I needed to just get out and, you know, gasp for breath. And I would just cry, like out of nowhere. I would just break down and cry no one really had to say anything to me, or I didn't necessarily have to be in a specific place. I would just, you know, I could be in this room and suddenly just feel like I need to cry and express myself. You know, and then there were days when I just didn't want to get out from bed. I would just want to sleep and not wake up, because to me, sleep felt like my escape, and I felt like I didn't have to deal with the reality of what I was experiencing. I didn't want to eat, I didn't want to interact with anybody, I didn't want to, you know, I didn't want to go to work. I'd lost, you know, motivation with absolutely everything. And fortunately, you know, my mother happened to be there a couple of months into this. My parents live in a different city, and they had come to visit, and I was sitting in their room, and they were packing up and ready to leave. And I had one of those moments where I was just watching her pack, and I suddenly I broke down. And she looked at me and she said, what happened? Is everything okay? And I said, yes, everything was okay, but clearly everything was not okay. And, you know, she asked me the routine questions about, is it my relationship? Is it something at work? And I just kept saying no, and I didn't know what was that one thing. I couldn't point my finger at it. And she immediately looked at me and said, Deepika, I think you need professional help. And that's when we called Anna Chandy, who, you know, at the point was a family friend, but also a trained psychologist. But at that point, we felt like we wanted to share this with somebody who we could trust, someone who was not going to, we were concerned about what the media was going to say, and we didn't want to be seen outside a psychiatric clinic. So everything was hush-hush. I remember calling up Anna. She was in the middle of a personal crisis. She was traveling. And I called her, and literally, she asked me 2 questions, and she said, I'm flying down to see you right away. You need professional help. You need to see a psychiatrist. And, immediately, I think literally that same evening or the next day, she was on a flight. She came to see me. We then, together went to another doctor who finally diagnosed it as clinical depression. And I remember after struggle for so many months of having to go about the motions of doing everything, going about my professional engagements, having to speak at events, having to perform scenes, having to engage with people, having to do all of those things, but actually not being present in the journey for me was not understanding what I was feeling, or not understanding what I was experiencing. Not being able to explain to people what it is that I'm feeling. So I didn't have the strength and I didn't have the words to explain to somebody what I was experiencing. This is where, my journey to recovery began, because I think accepting what Dr. Shyam Bhatt told me was equally an important part of my journey to recovery. And I think what I see around me very, very often is 2 things. For example, when my mother said, I think you need help, I could have easily rejected that and said, no, Mom, that's crazy. This doesn't make any sense. I'm not seeking professional help, A. B, the other situation could have been my mother could have completely discouraged me from seeking professional help. So I think the 2 things that we managed to achieve here as a family is, 1, the fact that somebody close to me within my family recognized the signs and symptoms, 1. 2, encouraged me to seek help. 3, that I was open to the idea of seeking help. And I accepted the fact that, okay, if our body is sort of susceptible to illness, so can the mind. And, and I think that's when I understood the importance of the mind and the body, and understanding that in the same way that we take care of our physical health, it's equally important for us to take care of our emotional health, our mental health.